Hello guys, welcome back. I'm your friend Inside. So inside of this video, I'm going to show you some Vue tabs, and along with it, I'm going to do some experiments to say if it works like I think how it would work. The first one is watch can't watch props sub variable. This is a bug that I found inside of the Vue framework, but we'll see. First, we'll have a child component. For this child component, it only takes one property, which is a message, and it's a string. This is how we call the property message equal to something. And here we get the render correctly right in here. For the property, it could have a lot of types. We got so many different stuffs: string, number, balloon, array, object, data, function, symbol. But that's not what I'm gonna talk about. Here for the parent, I'm going to create a few variables. For those variables, it should be inside of the setup function, something like this. Inside of the setup function, we could do some initializing work. For example, define some variables that we're gonna use in later if we wanna rendering it in the template. And to be honest, I think the structure for this default file is kind of wrong. We should first make some script to make some variable, then we could be able to use that variable. So I think the template should be right below the script. And how can we use that variable? We could do this. If we add the colon, if we add a colon to the property, then it means it will receive a variable. Then that will be just the dict, that's data, that's the message. I just define it here, right? So now if I save it, if we go back, we should say something like this. Okay, then I'm going to create a button. For this button, it will do something. And I do not think it's a good idea to define your function inside of the template or the HTML code. That would make it hard to maintain and hard to analyze. Instead, we should right in here create a functions that properties, and inside of that I'm gonna say change the messaging. How can it change the messaging? It could set the dict, that data, that the messaging equal to a new string. And then we could use this function for sure. We could assign it to that button. When we click it, it will call that function. So dict that functions that change the message, something like that. Now if we go back to our view, oh, I didn't give the button anything. Yeah, I'm going to set the button to change it. Now we got the button correct. Let me zoom it up so you can see it clearly. Now if I click the change it will change it to a actually written number. Okay, this is not that cool. This is just how we use reactive stuff, so that whenever we change the data, it will automatically change the HTML view. I think this is not magic. Any framework could do that. Now back to our topic. The watch can't watch props sub-variable. What I mean is, inside of the child components, we will also have a setup function. We knew that we got a keyword or built-in function called watch. By using this function, we could watch some changes in variable. For example, I just want to know whenever the props dot message got changed, I want to print out it into the console. And immediately it threw out an error. It says a type cannot be assigned to the object. So for this function, for this watch function, it will always take an object. So in this case, I'll just put the props to it. Alright, after we set it up let me just go back to the scene. From there we got our cancel, and if I hit the change, and you would know whenever I change it, the console will print out something. And to be honest, the result is correct. The only problem is it will watch the whole changes of the props, but I don't want to do that. I just want to watch the message, that single variable. How can we do that? Well, can we just pass it a property like message equal to props that message? I just want to watch this. Will it work or not? I don't know. Now, if I hit the change button, it will not print out anything. So this message doesn't work. Then how about we use another logic? We still watch for the props, the whole object. But we'll do some modifications. We're gonna say if the new value dot messaging does not equal to the old messaging dot messaging. Then we print out something. Will this work? We will say when I hit the change button, you would generally notice that it will not print out anything. So this is not working. Sounds strange. It shouldn't be. Remember what we have learned last time, how to debug? Here we are going to use it. First, we're going to create a file called vue.configure.js. Inside of that file, we will add the following code to it to set the develop tool to source map. After that, we rerun the service. Then we refresh the whole page. If we go to the sources, if we do a search for the hello world view, then we would be able to see the whole source file that we have. So for now, I just make a breaking point here so that we could know the value of new value and old value. Let me hit the change button. Here we go. We got it right in here. And for the new value, it's not a real value. It's a reactive stuff, or how to call it. Some people call it prox. It's not the network prox, but it's an idea made by the Vue or the JavaScript world. They use a prox to change some value. For example, the new value, the real value is 55. How about the old value? The old value is still 55. Can we use the keyword onRef or the built-in function onRef to get rid of the value of that? I don't know. Let me just go back to the code that we have, and I'm going to add a new function onRef. So instead of just listen to the props, I'm going to listen to the onRef version of props. But it doesn't work. As you say, the new value is 95. The old value is also 95. So basically, we cannot watch the changes for it. We couldn't get the newest value and the oldest value from the parent or from the props. So for now, you may ask me, what's the purpose of the watch function? It will watch the value change for sure. For example, if you got a variable value at the beginning, it's equal to an empty string. And let's say, yeah, okay, I'm going to create an object. So value object. For this object, it got some value inside of it. For example, the value itself at the beginning is equal to an empty string. Then I'm going to watch the value object. Then how can we change that? How can we change the value object? Well, we'll create a button. We can return the value object so that we could change it later. For example, the value object that value, I'm going to set it to something else. Now we got a new button, but before I press it, I would like to add a breaking point here. Now if I hit that button, you see nothing really happened. How about we render it in the scene so that we could see it clearly? At the beginning, I will set it to AAA so that you could know that we got it AAA right in here. Then when I hit the button, you see nothing. The AA doesn't change. Now, I think you probably could understand why we would love to use a reactive right in here, because only with it, whenever we change the value, it will also change the rendering variable. So for now, let me just put it into the data. In that case, we do not need to return the value object anymore. So for this case, I would become dict.data.value. And now, instead of watch the value object, we would love to watch the dict.data. This is a new object. Now, if I click this button, we will say the watch function actually got the change. It noticed that it fired up when we change the value AAA. Now you see the AA got changed, and if we go to the console, you would say hello again, which is exactly the new value of this line of code. So for the watch function, it only works when you listen to your components variable. I mean those variables inside of your current components, but it will not work if you want to listen the properties. This is the first bug I found in the Vue. Then another one is Vue model. If we go to its official website, you would generally know that we could use Vue model, comma, with the title, which is variable len or property len, then followed by the value that you want to pass to your child components. That's something like that. Now let me just create one. For example, now, instead of the messaging, I'm going to create a new one. or we don't, since the property could be a Vue model, right? The only difference is that we're gonna pass that message in a different way. For example, instead of saying something like this, we would love to say Vue model, comma, with a message. Then that's all. That's all you need to do. So in this case, you successfully turn the property into a Vue model. You know, one good thing about the Vue model is that the child could change the variable that you just passed to it. You probably do not know what I mean. Okay, I'll show you. For now, our web page would work as it should be before. For example, when I had the changes, it will change. But now I'm gonna do something different. Instead of putting the button on the parent level, I'm going to put this button inside of the child components. And what I want to do is to let the child button, this is the button inside of the child, to change the parent variable. That's why we need a Vue model. And let me do it slowly. So when I hit the click button, it would call a function. Again, I'm going to call this function, change the messaging. We know that this message was coming from the property, the Vue model. How can we change it? Change the property or change the parent variable? Well, we are going to use a function called emits right in here. It's a sub-function of the context. So here, if we already have the context, then we would have the emits function. Context.emits. But how can you do that? Well, you do it like this. Emit with update, comma, the variable len followed by the new variable or the new value you want the variable to get. So update messaging with the new variable. That's it. This will change the parent variable. Now if we go back to the scene and when I hit the change it, you'll notice that it's getting changed. So amazing. This is basically how you change the parent variable with the child variable. But we still couldn't watch the property change for now. So I'm going to do an experiment to see if we could do that. For example, inside of the data, I would just say temp messaging. It would be equal to a computed function. For this one, when you try to access its value, I just return you the message from the properties or from the props. Then when you want to set it, I would just say context.emit with the message and the new value, something like that. Okay, then instead of change it manually by calling the context.emit, now what I'm gonna do is to say dict.data.temp_message equal to the new value that we have. Now it seems like simplified the whole work. Will it work or not? If we go to our web page and do a refresh, if we click this button, you would say it's still working. Good. Again, we still do not know whether the temp message got changed or not, or whether the parent property got changed or not. So I'm gonna listen to that variable. Again, at first I'll use the unofficial way. This is a message that I just want to try it out. Let me see if it's working. If I press this and if we go to if we make a breakpoint in here, and if I hit the change it button, okay, it's not getting into it. So this message will not work. But instead, if we just listen to the dict.data object, if we listen to this object, I mean this one, will we get the update or not? Now if I hit the change it button, you would say we got it right in here. But again, it will not tell you whether some part of that value got changed or not. For example, for the new value, we got a 43. For the old value, we also got a 43. So I could 100% sure that we can't use the watch function to watch any properties. We can only know if the whole properties got changed or not. For example, if we listen to an object like this one, whenever some of its value got changed, we will know. But we couldn't exactly know if a property of it got changed or not. That's the drawback of the watch function. But if you just want to listen to some object, I think it's fine for using the watch function. Okay, let's leave it there. So what if we just want to listen to the temp message when it's get changed? What do we do? Well, we do it like this. Since we know that this value is a new value, and we also know the old value, that'll be dict.data.temp_message. This is the old value. Then we could say do a comparison. If the new value that's not equal to the old value, then we just print out the new value or maybe the old value together. Okay, let's say if it's working, if I refresh this, and if we go to the cancel, when I hit the change button, you will generally notice the new value and the old value, or probably the old value and the new value. If I do it multiple times, you would notice that 92, 92, the old value, and 90 is a new value. So in this way, we could definitely know if one single variable got changed or not. So this is how we use the Vue model to handle the property or data transformation between the parent and the child. Then we are going to go to a new area. By doing all this coding by yourself over and over again, on the one side you feel very tired. On the other side, you are writing some repeated coding or some repeated code. That doesn't make sense. You shouldn't do that. You should reuse as much as code as possible because it saves your life and increases your productivity. Okay, so let's create a general function. So inside of the src folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it functions.ts. Inside of this file, I'm going to create a lot of functions to do the experiment to say if it works like I think it should. And for now, we need a general function to determine if the old value equal to the new value or not. So we will need a compare function. So export const that say to equal. For this function, you should receive two variables, a and b. And for each of them, they can be whatever value. And what I'm gonna return as a equal to b or not. If it's equal, it will return true. If it's not, it will return false. Then how can we use that function? Well, we could say import anything as functions from that file that we have. And that should do it. Now let me just use it. If functions that say to equal, the first one would be the new value, and the second one should be the old value. Let's say if it's working. Okay, it's working without any problem. But what this function does is a general, let's say it is a general usage for functions like this. It doesn't really save us that much work. They're just some functions. They didn't do anything else special. But how can we do more with the abstraction so that we could reuse more stuff? Okay, let me do this experiment. So for example, now if we have a variable, the global reactive object. For this object, it should be a reactive one. And for this variable, I'll just give it a piece of data called mood. At the beginning, it's equal to an empty one. Then we're gonna have its functions. Instead of change the messaging, I'm gonna say change the mood. For this case, I would say whenever I hit it or whenever I call this function, I would say the global reactive object dot data dot mood equal to the value that I passed to it. For example, the mood equal to a string. Okay, the last step is we're gonna export it. Otherwise, other files couldn't use it properly. So let's say if we could reuse that. So I'm gonna say import that global reactive object from the functions file. We got no error. That was good. Then we're going to use it. I'm going to do the most crazy experiments with a Vue I have ever made. I'm going to pass a whole variable or object into the child function or into the child component. To do that, first I'm going to define the property. So the global reactive object should be equal to an object. Then I'm going to pass it to that child. That'll be as simple as the global reactive object equal to, we're gonna return it first. So wait, how can we do that? Let me just do a pass here. It's working. Then I'm going to say the global reactive object. Now we got no errors, thank to God. Then we're going to go to the child components. Inside of that, I'm going to use some of its value. So for now, I'm going to say the global reactive object that's data, that's mood. I hope it's right since we do not have the auto completion. Why? Because, yeah, that matter. Let me just try it out, right? So when I collect it, I just want to call a function. That'll be the global reactive object that functions that's something, right? I forgot about the len. It should be change the mood. Alright, so we're gonna change the mood with some variable or with a string. Let's say happy. So this is a happy button, and I'm gonna duplicate it by 1, and I'm going to set it to set. Okay, it looks everything just fine when I write the code. But how about the reality? If we go back to the web page and if I click the happy button, you would say, ah, we got the happy text. Then how about we click the sad button? Oh, we also got the sad text. That's just amazing. So far, I guess you already guessed what's the power of a reactive. We could actually reuse a variable all over the place. For example, we could pass this variable to the child component, then we could let the child change the parents and also change the global level of everything. And we can even, if I didn't make it wrong, we can even change the stuff over different components at the same time. I don't know if it's working or not. Now I'm gonna try it out. No, I think, okay, let me just think about it. What if I import it again? For example, instead of the functions, we say functions2. Now we got two instances of the function. Will it create two different global objects, or will it reuse the same one? I don't know. So for now, what I'm gonna do is to create a third button instead of the parents. So right in here, at the top of everything, I'm going to create a button. Oh, sorry, that's what not I mean. We shouldn't import the second function right in there, but instead at the app view, which is a global level, I'm going to import it again, but this time with a different variable length. I'm going to say okay. So import that as the global object too. Will it work or not? Yeah, it's working. So we're gonna use the global reactive object to say how it works. This could be fine. Let's say it's a funny experiment. So the global reactive object 2 dot functions that change the mood, right? For this one, I'll just give it a new, totally different string. Very, very happy because I'm doing something fun. And we are going to give the button a len. So change mood from another importing. This is the correct len, I guess. Now if I do a refresh, if I click the happy button, we will say the happy word. If I click the sad button, we will say the sad word. What if I change it from another importing instance? Will this text get changed or not? I'm gonna hit it. Okay. It doesn't work. We get an error. Can't read properties of undefined. Oh, we didn't return it. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna return it right in here. Now if I do this again, what would happen if I click this button? Oh, as you could say, very, very happy because I'm doing something fun. You know what? No matter how many times we import the functions kind of stuff, we would always get the same instance of this definition or this variable. It somehow becomes the global variable, and no matter where I import it, it will always share the same memory. I guess that was funny. So in this case, I could, if I want to do the abstraction, I could, for each component, I define a single piece of reactive object, then I could use it everywhere, across all of our application. So in that case, we could just say goodbye to the props because it's just too tedious to define those properties, and we even have to, pass it to the child component in this way. It's just not like a genius person would do, So yeah, I guess I'm pretty happy with this experiment. We have learned so much from this video, and I guess and I believe later if I do the Vue development, I could do better than I was doing before. So I guess this is why people normally need weekends or some spare time to do some exploration about their working or about their work, because this experiment or this exploration will really help them in the future, because only by doing those experiments or exploration, we could learn more than before. We could learn more stuff. Only when we have learned more stuff, we could do the job better. We could finish those work quicker and more efficiently, So yeah, I think this is today's video, and I hope you enjoy this video and learned something from it. Okay, that's it. If you love this video, please subscribe or press some button. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!